I want to just briefly talk about the difference between affect and effect. The noun affect is the physical expression of an emotional state, the feeling, or the mood. The verb affect means to influence or modify. The noun effect is something that is caused or produced, a result of a consequence. The verb effect means to bring about or accomplish, to cause something to happen. The easiest way to know whether you should use affect or effect is to put it in a sentence. If you can take out the word and affect and put in the word influence, then you know you're using the one with the A. So if you could take the word affect or effect out of a sentence and use influence instead, that means you should go with the A, affect, the noun, affect. In all other situations, you could use effect. Okay, so think about affect as the same as influence. If you can change one word for another, then you want to use the one with an A. If you can't, then you stick with the one with the E. I spoke a little bit about variables. We have active variables and attribute variables. Active variable is any variable that can be manipulated. An independent variable, the experimenter can manipulate or change its value. An attribute variable is a variable that cannot be manipulated. It would, for example, age, sex, degree of hearing loss, manipulated by nature. I am not even 5 feet tall, and there's nothing I can do to change that. That's what I am. That's my attribute. Some variables may be either active or attribute, depending on the circumstances of the research or how the researcher uses the variable. For example, hearing loss. It's normally thought to be an attribute of subjects, but hearing loss could also be manipulated by simulating different degrees of hearing loss. So it could be made active in a booth with an audiologist manipulating the sounds. With experimental research, again, we have independent variables that are active. They can be manipulated to see what effect we have on a dependent variable. In descriptive research, our independent variables are attributes. They cannot be manipulated. So with experimental research, we take an independent variable, we manipulate it, and we measure the effect on the dependent variable. With descriptive research, the independent variable is an attribute, and it cannot be manipulated. In descriptive studies, the researcher must rely on comparisons of values of the dependent variable that correspond to some existing value of an attribute independent variable. So with descriptive research, we're looking at comparisons of attributes. A continuous variable is one that can be measured along some continuum or dimension. It reflects rank ordering of values of the variable. For example, the intensity of a tone is measured along a numerical continuum from low to high values in an SPL. So from 5, 10, 15, 20, a continuum. A categorical variable, it is not measured along a continuum. Different values of the variable can only be categorized by name. For example, tones can be presented to a listener either binaurally or monaurally. So either both tones at once or one ear at a time. A category, one ear or 2 ears. Here again, remember independent variables on the x-axis, the dependent variables on the y-axis. Hypothetical data illustrating differences in the values of the dependent variable for 4 different categories of an independent variable. 4 different categories of an independent variable.